What is going on, everybody? We are doing our first in-person podcast episode with the man, the myth, the legend, as they never call him.
Yes.
Never. This is my father, Rodney, which is why the podcast is called Rambling with Rodney. And usually we do this podcast with me in my college dorm and him back home. But I am currently really at the tail end of my Easter break. We're going back home tomorrow, like noon, afternoon, somewhere around that time. So we just decided that since we're both in the same place, so why not do an in-person podcast? But as I said, this is Rodney for those of you who are new and have never met him, but I'll let him introduce himself in his own way that he wants to.
That was pretty good, actually. I am anything but the myth and the legend, but I guess the man. And anyway, a.k.a. Fluffy's papa, father, daddy-o, whatever you like to call it.
Earthly daddy-o.
Earthly daddy-o, that's right. I am his caretaker, caregiver until the Lord calls us home.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, pleasure to be here with you, as always. Look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, Kristo's asking how you doing. How are you doing with your job situation? That's one point.
Well, thank you. First of all, Kristo, thanks for asking. I appreciate that. My job situation, if you don't know, I decided a while back to exit stage left, as it were, from the company I was working for. No problem with the company or the technology or things like that. Just I didn't feel like I was always exhibiting Christ-like thought patterns. I was kind of grumpy at work and not terribly happy and as a follower of Yeshua should be. So just I decided to put in my resignation and wait upon the Lord. So that's where I find myself. But the good news is coincided with a family vacation, so we're all here at one of the beaches on the East Coast enjoying some beautiful weather.
Yep, and as you guys know, I do want to say this before we officially dive in. If you're wondering why the stream is on shield mode, for those of you who have not been here the last few weeks, actually this past week I took basically a 1 week hiatus from streaming, and I know that was kind of out of nowhere, but it's mainly because we have been getting raided by one specific community. I've been in talks with my mods, in talks with the community actually, and we're getting some things done, but not everything has been done. So if this stream does get chaotic at any point, don't worry, we're on the case and we will continue to communicate with you guys, whether it be on stream or off stream. Even as I said, if they come in and start chatting with us, we will treat it like we always treat it, chatting with people during the podcast. But just want to let you guys know about that, since we're never usually in shield mode. But today's podcast topic, we got to get into that topic. So for those of you guys that don't remember the last podcast, at least when I mentioned the topic at the end, today's topic is going to be on a YouTube channel called the Labrant Fam. If you don't know who the Labrant Fam are, they are a YouTube channel that actually started with the guy. So the guy whose name is Cole, he started his own independent, just himself YouTube channel. I think maybe some of his brothers or friends were also involved in making funny skits, kind of like Hey On Door used to do in his high school days, if you have been here since Hey On Door did his high school days. But that's all Cole did. And then he, years go by, he gets married, has some children. He is now, he's married with lots of children. But that Cole Labrant channel became the Labrant Fam channel with him, his wife, and all of his kids. But through the last few years, there has been some talk about not specifically their channel. I mean, there has been talk about specifically their channel, but really family YouTube channels in a sense. And so that's what we are going to be talking about. Not only some things about the Labrant Fam, but also some things about family channels. And so one of the questions that I wanted to start with, kind of YouTube overall for you, is I know, you can sometimes think of YouTube as educational videos or, we've talked about how, you have learned from your father and from friends and family how to do things, and yet my generation looks it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like that's what my generation does. We all look it up on
Yeah.
YouTube rather than learning it down from family. And so from the basics of what you know right now, what is your opinion on YouTube?
It's really my opinion on YouTube is the same it is for anything else internet related, which is an excellent tool when used in proper ways, and an excellent means to get sideways when used in not proper ways. But no, I think it's just another technology. It's another way to get things accomplished, and yeah, like you mentioned, I no longer live near my family at home, and so don't have immediate access to my father, who taught me a lot of things about houses and upkeep and vehicles and maintenance and things like that. So I often turn to YouTube to fix a matter at the house or a matter at the car. So I think it's fine.
There's probably a dabble of him in this house. So yeah, I love YouTube on my side of answering the question, I guess. I love YouTube. I mean, that's literally what I do. Yeah. This is gonna go on YouTube. I'm live streaming it here on Twitch, but this is gonna go up on YouTube in the next few days, maybe weeks, because I got school, all that stuff. But really, I tell people this all the time. Like, yes, I love doing YouTube. I love live streaming. I love making this content, to the point of why I created the newly named If Ministry Services. We did change the name recently, but everything hasn't been changed yet. And so, but it gets to the point where sometimes I notice, and maybe you guys notice this too, at least compared to when I go live or when I'm on Discord, that I do have a character. There is a character unintentionally with me. And I think I've told you this before, like, I'd go live, I'd do my thing, I've enjoyed my time, and then the moment I hit stop streaming, I'd have a little, like, flash and go, I just played video games for 2 hours. And I'd sometimes go back, because you guys know I do the 15-minute Bible studies. I'd go back, listen to the Bible studies sometimes, maybe correct myself and see what I can change in the future. And there's times where I'd be like, I don't remember saying that. Well, I don't remember saying that in the Bible study. So, there's a lot of things like that. But, I mean, as both of us have probably heard, like, we're always learning. Whether it be real world, whether it be content creation, or whether it be Christianity. We're always learning. And another way I've heard it put from a pastor at one point was, I think he said, like, I've written thousands of pages of words on many different topics, and I've only scratched the surface of who God is.
Yeah.
And so that's not the topic of this podcast, but kind of going off the train of social media, there's still a lot to learn, and social media is still growing, even if we feel like we know what we're doing. But on the topic of the Labrant Fam, as I said, they're a Christian family channel, started with Cole. Now they're a growing family who are actually raised on Christian values. They are a Christian. They went to church, did a lot of church-related things in California. They recently moved to Tennessee. But one of my first questions on that basis on them being Christian is I've noticed that whenever they do Christmas or even Easter, they do talk about Santa and they do talk about the Easter Bunny, but they don't stray away from talking about the true meaning of Easter. So they do talk about Jesus' death on the cross and what it means for them and for their kids. They do talk about the birth of Jesus and what it means for them and their kids. What is your view on, I know we've talked about, like, people who believe in Santa or people who believe in the Easter Bunny. But what is your view on people who collide both?
It's another one of those. You're asking me a question in a generic sense that's impossible to answer, because everybody's going to try to apply the answer to two specific people, right? And so the context of this sounds like if I give you a generic answer that I'm answering on the Labrant family. I don't know them, so I can't give you an opinion as to why they've elected to carry on both traditions. So it's an individual decision. For me, the decision is, this growing up, the decision has always been, I'm not going to blur anything with the truth of the gospel and the truth of the Christian history. And the reason it's so important for me is if you tell of a historical fact, and then in parallel to that you blend it with a made up story, whatever the context is, it becomes very difficult for anyone to understand, well, why do you have both? And why in the future should I believe a historical fact when there's some other alternating story? And so I always use Aesop's fables as my example. Like, if you talk about Santa Claus, then you talk about Jesus' birth, how's somebody who's not yet a believer going to know the difference between the two, and why you feel the necessity to talk about Santa Claus if Jesus is so important? Moreover, how do I know that Jesus really happened in history if Santa didn't happen in history the way that we talk about him? And how's that different from Aesop's fables, which are made up stories to prove a point? And so my concern becomes that folks then say, well, Christianity is like Aesop's fables. It's just made up stories to prove a point. And they wouldn't be wrong in coming to that conclusion, because the way we present these mixed messages all the time. Give a worldly view and give a Christian view, and then somehow people need to figure it out.
Okay. So kind of on that with Ramblings with Rodney.
Yep.
I was going to give an example because of something that is true, but I'll just say the true part.
Yeah.
What about Narnia? Like, Narnia Narnia is the story of the gospel, but it's not the story of the gospel.
Yes.
So what's that to you?
So for me, the difference is that no one's out there, and there's no message out there in a large worldly context that's pretending in any way as if Narnia ever was true. But with these other traditions, trying to be careful here, right? With these other traditions, there's lots of people out there for many years over the duration of people's lives pretending that they're true. And I could never wrestle, for me personally, it's just personal conviction, I could never separate thou shalt not lie with thou shalt not lie for bad reasons, but good reasons are okay. It didn't work for me, but I'm a very logical checkbox project manager, program manager kind of guy.
Don't be a checkbox Christian. I've been telling my community that recently. Don't be a checkbox Christian, though. Okay, so we've gotten over the idea.
Well, I don't know if we've gotten over Yeah. Like, y'all have to decide whether you've gotten over anything. But hey, please pop up messages.
We got over the
chat window.
The initial, I guess.
Yeah.
So on, well, not on the topic. My next question for you is, so as I said, they originally lived in California and they moved to Tennessee fairly recently. And do not quote me on this. I saw one video and it seemed interesting. I wanted to bring it up, but I have no idea if this is true. I noticed that, like, when they were in California, they talked about their church a lot, and they talked about Christianity a lot, but they would talk about their church family. They never really filmed anything relating to their church, but they did talk about it a lot. Now, with them being in Tennessee, I've only heard them talk about their church once, and that was actually when they baptized their oldest daughter recently. So good on them for baptizing their oldest daughter.
Congratulations, by the way, to them.
Everly was her name, and
Awesome.
the father got to baptize her as well, which I thought was very special.
Yes, very nice.
But something I
even
noticed,
even though he said he didn't do it correctly, but that's okay. He did it, so I'm just. That fantastic. I'm actually thrilled for him and for her.
But something that I noticed is, other than them seeming like they go to church, it almost looks like they go to church on Sunday, maybe go to church. basically what I'm saying, it looks like they go to church on Sunday, but then every other day they do pour in the gospel to their children, but in video form that they found on YouTube, not relating to their church. And so, really, in simple terms, my question to you is, what do you think about that? Where they do go to church and they do pour into their church, but they also have, if you want to use cool sounding terms, third-party ways to pour the gospel into their children outside of the church.
So that was a rambling like Rodney.
Welcome.
Question that I'm not sure how to answer. So, I guess a couple things. One is again, these are all speculative questions and answers because you don't know the people involved. So God bless them for what they do and what they've been able to get across in terms of the numbers of people hearing about Jesus. And so by the way, I've only watched a couple of their episodes. So, while they have millions of subscribers, no offense to anybody, I'm not one of them. That's not because I
am one of them, and yet we're talking about
because I don't like their message. I just choose to dedicate my time elsewhere. But they may simply be not talking as much about church and church family because they're new to the area, right? They grew up in California, and one or both of them were members of that church forever. They had established relationships, established history. They had a comfort level. It was easy to talk about your friend. I mean, I still talk about my church back home where I grew up, and that was 30 years ago. So it just may be that they're not yet ingrained in the overall culture with where they are in a particular church family. But so praise them that they're in a church, right? That they've taught their children, because many people, I would speculate, leave your church family, move to a completely different area, cross the country in this situation, and then find it easy just to do or to pretend to do church at home, and become completely disconnected from a church. So that's fine. And then, as long as they're getting the gospel, Deuteronomy 6 would be very clear, right? That the gospel message starts at home, right? You teach your children when you wake up in the morning, right? When you walk along the way, when you sit down, when you go to bed at night, you're constantly teaching children about the gospel. So whether they're doing that one-on-one directly or in a family dynamic or by using third parties, they're teaching their kids about Jesus. So, hey, kudos for that.
I guess mainly I'm asking the question because it almost seemed like they almost were focusing on both YouTube and the church. A lot of people might say, like, do your YouTube, but focus more on the church. They had both of them going.
Yeah.
And when they moved to Tennessee, they said, okay, we're still going to go to church, but we're going to take away a little bit of our church our church involvement, while also they actually have been taking away a little bit of their YouTube involvement. And again, speculation. But that's just what it seemed like to me, was they went from doing both really good and a lot to now doing both not a lot and, not a lot on the YouTube side and seeming like not a lot on the church side because they started using the third parties.
So again, we guess all day long about why they did what they did, but until we bring them on the show and ask them directly, right? Who cares? I mean, I care, but I'm not going to care to speculate. But I will say, one of the videos I watched, they address this. It's just like, look, we just don't have the time. We're raising children. We have a family.
And they still want more kids.
Right? And so they're, 4, maybe 5 now? I can't remember the exact number. A fifth was on the way.
Yeah.
But I love the transparency, right? Like, yes, we are, because people ask, like, when are you going to start doing more, right? When you start posting more, and like, we got no plans, like, we got kids to raise, right?
Yeah.
So that's the number one priority, right? Raise your family, right? And raise them in a godly household. And the methods that are used to raise your children in a godly household are really, as long as they're Christ-centered, biblically based, I'm fine with them bringing in somebody else. I mean, let's look at the real world. Like, how does it operate in the real world? And for me, I don't know about for you, I should know, but right, is, the saying is it takes a village to raise a child, right? Everybody uses other people to help raise your kids, right? And so that's
why we got the nursery.
That's why you have Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and all these other programs, right? And then the people, the church and Sunday school and youth group, everybody's using somebody. If they're smart, surround yourself and your family with wise biblical counsel, and that means letting other people teach. And and for folks listening to this, right? One of the things that I thought was a stroke of spiritual brilliance on my part, and I say spiritual brilliance because it wasn't my part. It was the Spirit. But at one point, I really had the realization that my children are going to get to the point where I can't answer their questions any longer. Like, I look like the smartest guy in the world to them up until about age 6, maybe. And then you start to wean, maybe longer than that. But there's a certain point where they start to have their own personalities, their own identities. And they come to you for advice, and you can't answer they don't come to me for advice on how to stream because I can't help them, right?
He's coming to me for advice on that.
And so my point is that I had this revelation that I need that village, I need those support, but I also need the boys to know that when they are stuck in a pickle, so to speak, or in a corner. They're out with friends and everybody's drinking and they don't know what to do, right? And they haven't, but they don't have it right. They don't have their license. They can't get a ride home. Like, I wanted them to know, look, it's okay if you get into a situation where you don't want to come to me or your mom. It's okay to go to other people, but it's not okay to go to any other person. You have to go to somebody we trust, that we know is Christ-centered and that we know is godly. And so I talked to several men in my church family that I trust, some outside my church family, men that I know love God and have centered their life around God, and asked them if they would come along as what I call be safe harbors for my boys. And I let my boys know, look, if you don't want to talk to me, then at least make sure you talk to one of these guys. And some of those guys came out of criminal backgrounds. Some of them came out of severe drug abuse. Some of them, like, stuff I've not experienced. So if my boys ever found themselves in these situations and they didn't feel like they could come to me because my lack of background, I wanted to know that it's okay to go to some of these other guys. And so I had that support system in place for them. But those guys also, just for the parents and for the children listening, right? I let my boys and those men know that it had to be confidential between the two of them if it was going to be fruitful. But if it was going to endanger their lives, that would not be confidential. And so everybody just came to agreement on that if the boys present something to one of their safe harbors that's going to be endangering to them, that the safe harbor would, before they told us, would give in this case Isaac or his sibling, the option to tell us first and give them a few days to do that before they gave us that information. Pause for ad.
Pause for ad.
Pause for ad.
Pause for ad. If you're not getting the ad, thank you for subscribing.
All right.
And if you are getting the ad, subscribe.
Who you thumbing up?
Christo. He said he just got an ad.
Gotcha.
He also helped me.
So they can see the video, but not the sound? Or
yeah.
They'll hear all the sound after the ad finishes?
No, so as you see, the stream's still going. Whenever this ad stops, it will immediately put the person in where that is going to land after the ad.
Okay, so they'll skip everything.
Yeah.
They'll miss that. Okay.
Yeah, so the conversation we're having right now, they probably won't hear.
All right. But people who subscribe will hear.
Yeah, people who are subscribed hear us.
So, welcome. Let me get back. You could say welcome, because I don't know how to pronounce it.
Well, I say it the way that it was before he rebranded. Life. Welcome on in. Yeah, his name was Life Delusions, but he decided to change his name.
Oh, okay.
But I hear everything, although I'm not subscribed. Dude, you're a hacker.
Cristo, way to go. Proud of you. Good job. All right.
So, now that we've gone through basically the religious side of them. Let's
Yeah.
go through you as a parent and them as a parent. Let's go through the parenting side.
All right.
So to give you guys some background on at least what they've shared on social media, what is? I keep wondering what that sound is. Basically, this family. So I mentioned the whole thing of Cole being the husband being the one who started the channel. The wife, on the other hand, she was in a former relationship, which is how their oldest, Everly, came along. Is 19 years old, not knowing what to do with their life. Yeah.
Not relevant. I don't care.
And so, after that happened, she left the relationship, found Cole. Now they're a family. Beautiful. But one of the things that someone noticed on social media, I don't exactly know where this video is from, but it is a video of them, is the original father of their oldest gave the daughter some gifts to, I guess, remember him, for the oldest daughter to remember him.
Okay.
And there's this video on social media of the daughter is in in gymnastics, dancing, stuff like that. So when she was at her dancing class or wherever she was at, the Cole and Savannah were in their garage finding things that they need to throw away, and they found one of the gifts that Everly's original father gave to her, and they filmed themselves throwing that away and posted it somewhere. And that's kind of where the craziness about them came from.
Okay.
Is that happening? And so, as a parent yourself, and I mean, you have gone through divorce, but you don't have stepkids.
Yeah.
What is your initial thought on that?
Well, I mean, I hate to answer every question with the same comment, which is
I don't know them.
I don't know the situation. Like that's my number one beef, or a number one beef I have with all social media. We just, and trust me, the whole show is called Rambling, right? So I can ramble with the best of them, but we just spew off our opinion without any facts whatsoever. So, hey, look, they're charged by God to raise this child, right? And at the end of the day, that we all do as parents the best we can, right? Mm-hmm. To represent God to our children, but we only have temporary custody of you, right? Because you're God's children, right? You're God's creation, and so I mean that's all I'll say about that is I don't know enough information about any of that to know, but if there's anything in that situation that would be deemed harmful to the child, then I'd have chucked it too. Now, did they tell the girl before they chucked it, after they chucked it, at some point? If it was made public, they surely expect she's going to see it eventually. So it's not like they did something in secrecy, right? I'm videotaping this. I'm not trying to hide it from anybody. And hey, the one thing that's really, I guess, in some sense, kind of cool about throwing yourself out there in the limelight, yeah, you'll be bashed by as many people as you'll be followed by. So if they have 1 million followers, they probably have 1 million or 2 million bashers, right? I mean, the world's full of haters, and it's under the domain of Satan. All you got to do is get to be on social media to see that that's true.
That's the thing about the algorithm is if you like a YouTube channel, if there's bashers out there, you'll also see the bashing.
Yeah. So, but Jesus was clear on this, right? Is that they bashed him all the way to the cross, right? Mm-hmm. And he said, look, if they treated your master like this, know for sure they're going to treat you like this. And so we shouldn't be surprised by any of it. So again, not enough information to be able to give any kind of answer on that, other than if what they did out of love and safety. Hey, kudos to them for doing it. And that's not to say there was anything about her biological father that's bad or wrong. I don't know him either. Mm-hmm. But we have to leave it where it is, right?
And I will say it's on a sad note, but also on a prayerful note for the Labrant family. Her biological father 2 years ago, I think, actually passed away. I don't know what the condition was, but that's what one of the things that I'm proud of them for doing, even though I'm younger than the parents, is that when her biological father passed away, they stopped doing YouTube for like 2 months. And just allowed the whole family to grieve, but specifically the wife and their oldest.
Yeah. Well, and, I can tell you, like I've been involved with people who have been in and come out of very bad situations, and some of them they stay in by choice. Some of them they stay in because of addictions, and they just can't get out of it. When something bad happens or they end in a bad way, it's still no less sorrowful, right? It's still no less traumatic to lose a loved one or to suffer separation from a loved one for forever or for dozens of years before there's restoration or whatever. So it's still heartbreaking.
Yeah. And it did seem like there was a good relationship because both Cole and Savannah, especially Cole, have said like I feel like a brother to this guy. So it was definitely, even though it was a lot of things, it's still a good relationship between Savannah, her former partner, and their oldest, Everly. But on a better note, at least for now, one I guess better question for you that I actually thought this was interesting. So for those of you guys who have never heard me say this, who knows if I have, whenever we do Christmas, at least I'll start with this. Whenever we do Christmas, we have 3 Christmases. We have one with my parents, we have another with his side, and then another with my mom's side. When me and Hey On Door do Christmas with just my parents, they do it in a way, and you can speak to this if you want, where we get a lot of stocking stuffers, but also 3 gifts. That's the one thing I laugh about Christmas is you advertise the 3 gifts.
I don't advertise,
but then you get the stocking stuffers. And for those of you who don't know, the 3 gifts symbolize the 3 gifts that Jesus got when he was born. And so Cole and Savannah, the way that they do it is they buy eight gifts for their child. But here's the amazing catch. They allow their kids to unwrap those 8 gifts, and then ask their kids which one of the 4 out of 8 do you want to donate to kids in need. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I mean, what do you think?
Oh no, I like that. We actually contemplated doing that ourselves, and we're like, well, for us, it was like, okay, they only got 3 to choose from, right? So now you're down to 2.
Oh, it's like 6, 3, 6.
No, I'm just saying. We're just saying like we had already settled on 3 gifts that represented gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Christmas for us is not Christmas; it's Jesus. It's a birthday celebration. So we don't. Now we do traditional decorations and trees and lights and things like that, but we made a conscious decision. Actually, I think before the birth of our first child, that we weren't going to be anti-Santa Claus. We just weren't going to mention Santa Claus. We're just going to celebrate a birthday party. And so every year we had a birthday party for Jesus.
No cake, though. I know some people do cake. Some people do cake.
And so we said, and the gifts were always, and this was my wife's either brilliant idea or steal from the internet. I don't know which.
Pinterest.
But yeah, just that they get 3 gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and it would help put a limit around the money we spent and how crazy we went. Because as a parent, it's easy to go get caught up in it and go nuts on it. Hence the overflowing stocking stuffers that tends to compensate. But anyway, so then we thought about that. We saw, I think it was probably I'm trying to think. Anyway, there was a Christian actor from many moons ago. I think, I won't give him credit, but I believe this is where we saw this idea of having them take one of their gifts and give it away, which we thought was brilliant. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. We do different things, like we sponsor families and special needs children's and Department of Social Services, and so we go out as a family and we just buy gifts. So we go out usually at Christmas shopping with a couple carts and go out and buy gifts for others that way. So, but anyway, no, I think it's a great idea.
And in a sense, we buy gifts no matter what time of the year for children, because Compassion just wants to buy a gift at some point. Compassion International, look that up if you've never heard of them. Let's see, where am I in my notes here? So back to not so sad, but back to the Labrant Fam. And really the whole aspect of them putting their kids on the internet. Me and my dad actually had a conversation. I was thinking about that too. Me and my dad actually had a conversation at one point before this podcast, like yesterday, I think, about I think it was yesterday, about there are a lot of YouTube channels who start out either with no kids or maybe they don't focus on their kids. And, some YouTube channels are fine with that. They're like, getting views, getting paid, good enough. But then there's other YouTube channels that people have noticed they didn't start focusing on their kids. But then the moment they started focusing on their kids, they were getting views, they were getting paid. And so now they're focusing on their kids. And so I don't know if you watched this one, because I know you said you've watched a few of their videos. There was a Q&A video where one of the questions they got asked is, do you regret putting your kids on the internet? And they replied with this. They said that their channel is used as family videos that they love. And Savannah, the wife, also said that her number one priority is being a mom. And so even though Cole stated that he wanted to show his healthy marriage through the video, Savannah said she wanted to show that she was a mom. And in a sense, almost looking at that, going back to your thing about bashers, I feel like that was a good response for a kind of bashful question. Like they're ready to bash them with the answer to the question.
Well, you've witnessed recently the nature of many questions many times nature of questions coming from internet people have this negative there are traps, right? They're just trying to get you to answer questions so they can then pounce, right? And so that's why I'm like, ask me whatever you want. I really don't care, because pounce on what you want to pounce on. Don't pounce on what you like. I don't find my value in your opinion of me, and that maybe sounds a little bit arrogant, but like my value is in what Christ thinks of me, and look, all he's got to do is look at me as soon as I'm conscious in the morning and realize I'm already sinning all over again in my mind. And so I'm evidentially a sinner day in and day out, but God sees me through the lens of Jesus Christ, and I'm perfect in that respect. And so I'll do my best to honor him in what I say and what I do, and I know in my humanity I'll screw up. So I will give bashers food for fodder every single moment of
I've gotten some advice from this man.
Single day. And so, kudos to anybody who's got 1 million followers and is surviving the mayhem. But I love the comments, right? At the end of the day, it shows that they have their head, and in my opinion, they have their head on right. Is like, and for all the places where their head's on right, the world still infiltrates all of us. And so, kudos that she wants to be a mom. Kudos that he wants to show his love. Now, how much of that is put on the tube for the sake of money versus put on the tube for the sake of, like, my personality? I need words of affirmation. That's just part of my love language. I need words of affirmation. So if they need words of affirmation, or even if it's inputs and comments of affirmation, that's okay. That's just their giftedness. That's their love language. But they're learning that it comes with dangers too, right? Because now you've exposed yourself to the opposite of words of affirmation, words of distress and dismay and whatever. But the world's full of haters. So,
same video. They also asked another question, or God asked another question. The question was, why do they use social media? And you talk about Cole kind of like Savannah leaning towards the mom side, Cole leaning towards the money side almost. That was actually part of their answer. Is they state that even though they get mean comments, because that's like, why are you on social media? And then they talked about how you're always going to get mean comments, as we've talked about. But they say even though we get mean comments, the amount of money they get is far better than those comments. It was their reply.
Yeah. Now, see, there's that comment itself just opens itself up to the haters, right? It's like, oh, well, you're just doing it for the money, or you're arrogant, or whatever. It's like, well, hey, I get paid well for my job. Well, I don't now because I'm unemployed. But hey, if you're successful at what you do, and you feel like in what you're doing, in your honest assessment, you're honoring God, then be happy in honoring God. And if you're homeless. By the way, Jesus, all intents and purposes, was homeless. He said, I don't have anywhere, till the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head, right? I don't have a bed of my own. I don't have a house of my own. So that's fine. But if God happens to bless you, that's fine too. And so how much of that do you keep for yourself versus how much do you spread out for others? That's, again, another individual decision. And you and I have talked about Jesus, right? Saying, use money to buy friends for yourself. Like, hey, I'm sorry, the Lord said that, not me. Like, it's just manna, right? It just all goes away when you die anyway, so do with it what you want. Money didn't matter to Jesus was the point I think he was making. But yeah, I think that's cool if he makes money and he's doing well at it. The fact of the matter is folks might talk bad about me because I make more. I don't know if this is true, but let's just say I'm making more doing the same job that somebody else is doing. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to go out and quit my job because of that. I'm not expecting, okay, well, I'm making too much money, I should quit, right? Just, it's kind of silliness. Yeah. Again, people just looking for an online argument.
And I think I remember, this is not something I wrote down in my notes. I just remember this from a past video. One of the things that they're kind of taking what people would take as bad and turning it into good is they would say, like, yes, we're making a lot of money, and yes, we were able to live in California. That is one thing. But because of the money that we're making, we're able to not work and spend time with our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Kudos to that. I mean, I've got a good friend who has been blessed in business and blessed not in business, but because he's owned his own business, it's afforded him the opportunity to be with his kids growing up. And I mean, hey, I've been very, very fortunate as a project manager, as a vice president of a company, as an IT consultant, a management consultant, to work from home a great majority of my time. I've been self-employed probably half of my life. And yeah, absolutely. Even when we first, prior to you joining us in this world, we first moved south, the client I had was about 10 minutes from the house. And I could come home for lunch. And so I'd come home for lunch every day when his older brother was, barely standing, eye to eye to Blue's Clues on TV. Look up Blue's Clues if you don't know who that is.
Oh, I know. I bet Cass does.
Fantastic show. But he would just stand in front of the tube for 30 minutes, locked eyed on. But anyway, I got to be there, and it's, I'm telling you, those are precious, precious times you don't get back. And I'm the Labrant family. You will never, ever regret a single moment with those children, even the bad ones. Just trust me, even the bad moments will be moments that you relish. But yeah, so that's cool. Now, I mean, and I mean, honestly, I can see when I first came across the Labrant family a couple years ago, quite frankly, it was before you mentioned. I saw something about them. They were in California. I don't remember what it was, whether you were watching it or what. But my initial reaction was like very negative. I mean, I have to say, not negative for who they were or what they were saying, but they were moving into the new house in California, and I think they were going around with a camera showing the house, and I'm like, that felt like a really arrogant, like in your face kind of a video. But at the end of the day, what it came down to was he's incredibly handsome. She's gorgeous. They have a big house, right? It was all about
the whole family's got blonde hair.
It was just pure jealousy on my part. Like, I've wanted all my life to be a successful businessman. I've busted hump, working nonstop, and I barely scraped my way by. And here's two very beautiful people not doing, like, in my opinion, not even working hard and making millions of dollars. Well, that's where the hate stuff comes in. It's like, we don't, like, if we're willing to really turn the camera back on ourselves and say, well, time out. Why do I feel the way I feel? It's got nothing to do with Cole or Savannah. I mean, God bless them for what they're doing. And I mean, adorable family. The heart for moving to Tennessee to kind of quiet down the lifestyle, slow things down. The things she's doing in terms of mission work and stuff like that. We all go through those things as we mature in our walk and our faith and in our life, even here on earth. And so part of it is just dealing with in the mayhems of the darts that get thrown our way.
Yeah, and I will say, Cole and Savannah and Labrant Fam, if there's any chance you see this video, even though I'm super late on this and you're probably commenting something rude, I love you guys. I love your channel.
And seriously, I don't watch your channel, but I watched enough to say keep up the good work, right? The good work, like all things work together for good. That good being conformity to Jesus Christ, right? Life might be miserable, people might be haters, but God will use to conform us to His Son. I'm sure you all know that. So just keep up the work of conforming yourselves. And those little rugrats, as I like to call them, they're not even little any longer.
I can't imagine you guys with 8 kids, but I know it's your dream. Keep going for it. And if you want to be on this podcast, let me know.
There you go.
All right, last question, because I know we are running out of time. So one of the things that I noticed is, and Cole and Savannah have talked about this a lot, is they will, like their oldest, I can't remember exactly, but I think their oldest is maybe a young teenager. Yeah, okay. Young teenager, I think. But she doesn't have a phone. She doesn't have a phone. She's not on social media. He wishes that was me and Noah, but I don't even remember when I got my first phone. Maybe 16. So that is a lot of things that I'm sure, just as you did, parents love, and they're happy to not make their kids go through it, but allow their kids to go through that. But the interesting thing is, even though their children don't have social media, they have created social media accounts for each and every one of their kids that the parents run. And I mean, on the side of me, which funny enough, I'm making a YouTube video kind of relating to this at If Ministries, so hopefully I'll get that up soon. For me, that's a lot of social media accounts. Like, I would not be able to handle that. But it kind of, in my brain, contradicted that idea of, like, we're not going to allow our kids to have social media, but we're going to make social media accounts for all of our kids and take all these photos to post on their social media account. So I don't know what to think about that, and I wanted to hear your thought.
Yeah, my thought's quite easy on this. There's a misunderstanding in the statement. They're not allowing their kids. They're not going to let their kids have social media. We'll pause there for a break.
It's good. No, we're still on.
All right, we're still on. All right. So I think there's a misunderstanding in the statement. They're not going to let their kids have a phone, or they're not going to let their kids have social media. What the correct statement probably is, they'll have to correct and verify this, but what the correct statement is they're not going to let their kids have a phone unsupervised and unchecked. They're not going to let their kids have an unsupervised and unchecked social media. If you need to tell your friend and you're 12 years old, I'll give you my phone. Now, for that moment, you have your own phone and you can use it to call your friend. But I'm not giving you one to be completely unsupervised and endanger you, right? That is the job of the parents. Hey, parents in the world, that's your job to take care of your children and to keep them safe from the world. And it is not an invasion of privacy for you to be creeping your kids' social media accounts, right? First of all, I like the idea. Don't let them have one that you don't own. But if they have one already, you're the parent. You're not invading their privacy. Making them have their door open in a bedroom is not an invasion of privacy. You're the parent. You're tasked with keeping them safe. And hey, by the way, for those of you who professed, I'll hold this up because my Bible is somewhere else. But call this the Bible. For those of you that profess faith in the creator of the universe who gave us his word, like, they're not even your kids. They're his. You just got temporary custody. And someday you're going to have to look him in the eyes and answer, when he says, what'd you do with my children? Man, I don't want to have that question. I'd rather go in and say, like, hey, yeah, I'm sorry, I was a little too strict, right? But that's, to me, the difference, right? They're not saying they can't have a social media account. They just need a controlled social media account. And teach them how to manage it, how to use it, so that when they do get to be 14, 16, 18, and you turn them loose, like you're now turned loose, you can feel comfortable that they'll be somewhat safe. The world's still going to send predators their way, right? And targeted and hateful people their way. But at least you've taught them. And that's no different than teach them how to be respectful of women, right? What are some of the things I've taught you with regard to girlfriends or how to treat women?
Many things.
All right, just name one or two. Sorry, put him on the spot.
No, put me on the spot for things.
There's probably at least one or two that ought to pop in your mind. I'd be shocked about being with girls.
I mean, I don't even know what to call it. The sidewalk rule acceptable?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's the one I was thinking of, right? And so, what is the sidewalk rule?
Well, for girls specifically, it's that the man gets on the road side of the sidewalk.
Yeah, so when you're walking, just be kind enough to, as a man, to stand closest to the cars, right? And keep your girl buffered and safe. So if somebody's going to get hit by a car, you ought to be the one to take the hit, right? Just be mindful of that. Open the door. This is not male chauvinistic pig stuff here. Just open the door, men, for the women, whether they're your daughters or your wives or your mothers or some other church lady.
Or if you're 9.
Just come on, for goodness sakes, just get back to just some basic behavior patterns. I love that the world is so much preaching all over the internet about kindness. And then every time you do something kind like that, you become a male chauvinistic pig, right? And some women hater. It's like, okay, am I supposed to be kind or not? All right, I'm rambling a little bit. All right, back. Where were we? Reel this thing back in.
Man, I don't even know how to reel it back in. Because I think that was our last question. But really, like, as both of us have said before, or really specifically me, because I'm the one who has watched their content, I'm subscribed to them, and I wish I could be more involved. Like, with them being in Tennessee, the moment I heard that, I was like, one day I'll meet these people. I'd love to. But as I said, Cole and Savannah, the Labrant Fam, all their kids there, and as I think you said at the beginning, they have one on the way, which you are correct. They do have one on the way. What's up, Jim Bim?
Jim Bim!
Yeah, they are an amazing channel. Please go check them out. And as I just stated, they got the YouTube channel, and really every family member's got an Instagram. So no matter what Instagram you follow, you'll be following the family. But really, that's all I have about the Labrant Fam. And if you're wondering, again, if you're wondering if this was to talk about the Labrant Fam to say mean things about them, it is not. I just wanted to go over some of the stuff that has been talked about with the Labrant Fam. But as both me and my dad have said, you're gonna have people who hate you. What's something you've been telling me all the time? You're gonna have haters because Jesus had haters or something like that.
Absolutely, yeah. Jesus, like I'm just telling you what Jesus said, right? Look at how they treat your master. Mm-hmm. If they treated your master that way, if they weren't afraid to treat him that way, they're certainly not going to be afraid to treat you that way. Yeah. Right? And Peter and John put it this way: they get thrown in prison. And then they said that they thank God that they were worthy, right, of it. And so, I mean, now it's easy to say that now in front of a camera, and we're like not getting beaten by rods, and we're not shipwrecked, and see all the things Paul went through.
Cat and nine tails. Right. Oh man.
But hey, I mean, if you don't talk about it and profess it, kind of in your mind, rehearse it. When you're not under trial, you're definitely not going to be able to do it when you are under trial. Mm-hmm. And so I just think of these moments as just opportunities to kind of practice what we preach verbally. And then if we're ever considered worthy of it, then the Holy Spirit will be there to support us.
Yeah. Always got to practice what you preach, especially preachers. That's why you got the saying from a lot of preachers that say, I'm preaching to myself. And I say that too. Not an ordained preacher, but I preach. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. If you do have any questions, whether it be about this topic, about the podcast, please reach out to me. But I do also want to say, even though I might know stuff about the Labrant Fam because I'm subscribed to them and watch most of their videos, try to reach out to them. Who knows if they're going to answer? I've never tried to reach out to them, but reach out to them first, because while I might know stuff, as he said multiple times at the beginning, we don't know them. Yeah. I'd love to meet them, but we don't know them. Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. We will be back next Saturday. I will be back at my dorm, unfortunately not in person with him. And then, if I'm correct, we're going to have our next episode when I'm at college. We'll have our next episode. And then we won't have an episode because we'll be at the eclipse.
We'll be in Texas, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be in Texas for the eclipse. Make sure you check your eclipse map and see if you can see the eclipse.
Awesome.
And then and then the week after that we might something like that. I know I have a break at some point again.
What's next week's topic? Didn't somebody submit a question or something we were going to try to insert in?
I don't know. If you submitted a question, please let me know, because I don't want to mess that up. Also, before I act like I'm ignoring you, because I'm not trying to act like I ignore you and someone's been pointing at it, contact me on Discord if you haven't, Christo. My family is going to go take some beach family photos, so we can't talk directly after the stream, but maybe after the photos we can. So sorry about acting like I'm ignoring you. And also you just added another message, so thank you. What about chip clips? What?
I don't know what chip clips are, Jim Bim.
Okay.
You got to dumb it down for the old man.
And for the young man. I know what clips are, but chip clips? All right. Actually, I'll put it this way, but I will say what our topic is next week. We have entered from the... We kind of made a transition with the Labrant Fam. So we went from biblical topics to... content creators that are Christian. So that's kind of the season that we're in with the podcast, is we're going to be talking about some content creators, but most of them are Christian anyway. So next week is going to be on Dr. Witnesser is his name. And to give you guys a little snippet of who he is, because someone don't know who he is, and some of you, he is a streamer. And he started on Twitch, then had some time on YouTube and Kick and some other platforms. But now he's back on Twitch. So it's interesting to see his little flop between all the different platforms. There is some other things, but I wanna give you that as your trailer for next week. We're gonna be talking about Dr. Witnesser, who has gone through multiple different streaming platforms, but right now he's streaming on Twitch and I guess doing what he does best, streaming and playing video games. If you know anything about Dr. Witnesser, you might know what we're going to be talking about. But no matter what, come join us next week or whenever we do the next podcast episode. And unfortunately, we will probably be split and not in person at that time. But who knows? And as I said, keep an eye out on that eclipse, because you might be near totality or you might have a little snippet out of the sun. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let's see what this chip clip is.
That snippet out of the sun you were talking about.
Oh, you guys said eclipse. I made funny joke. Chip clips are clips like clothespins or different that you clip onto bags of chips to keep them. Yeah, that's why I said chip clips. I was like, what? Chips? Where did you get chips? But yes, the bite out of the sun, as they say, for those that don't get the full eclipse. All right, we're rambling because this is Rambling with Rodney. Thank you guys so much for being here. Keep me in your prayers, as I always say, as I keep you in my prayers as well. Let me know if you need anything. My DMs are always open. And as I said, I'll be back sometime tomorrow on campus for more school and more streaming. And hopefully by tomorrow afternoon, I'll have my weekly stream schedule out. Is there any closing statements you got?
I feel like I want to close with a prayer.
Okay.
Father, we bow before your throne in Jesus' name. We just want to lift up Isaac to you. Fluffy, I guess I should say. What's been going on there? Thanks for protecting him the last week, but thanks for counting him worthy of the name, and for doing what you've done through him and through this media. We pray also for the Labrant family. Lord, bless them for what they've done to raise awareness to your name, and to the best of their ability to be godly parents and representing those sweet little ones. So we just lift them up to you as well. Thank you for who you are. Thank you especially for this time of the year that we not only celebrate your death and your atonement, but your power over death and your resurrection Easter morning. So we're going to celebrate that tomorrow as the sun comes up. I pray that everyone here will do the same. But no matter what we do, Lord, we give you the glory for it. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Can we get hearts in the chat? I don't say that a lot, but can we get hearts in the chat for this guy? Because we're actually streaming on his... Is this considered your work laptop?
No, this is not my... What? I'm unemployed. I don't have a work laptop.
I guess
hey, yeah, this is like a 1980s vintage laptop.
It can't be that old.
It's not that old, but it's a pretty old laptop. Hey, but it works.
It's streaming well. The fan is probably dying because I can hear it, but
Yeah.
it is streaming well. This man's got a great laptop for streaming and an external monitor, which is what I'm pointing at right now.
Right. Very
But
good.
love you all. See you guys in the next stream. Schedule's coming out tomorrow sometime. Bye.